This is the Fredericksburg Neighbors Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Dory Stewart.
Welcome back to another episode of the FXBG Neighbors Podcast, where we share the stories of our favorite local brands. I have a special guest joining me today. We've got Dr. Dannielle VonDerLinden, and she is with Dynamic Medical Centers, formerly Dynamic Foot and Ankle Center. She is a podiatrist and president of the company. Dr. VonDerLinden, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Dory. Thanks for having me. Such a privilege.
I'm excited to dive in and learn more about you and learn more about your business. So let's start with the business side. Share with us a little bit about Dynamic Medical Centers.
Yes, great question. We're going through quite an incredible transition right now. We, formerly Dynamic Foot and Ankle Centers, we have currently 2 locations. We've been in practice. We celebrated 10 years last year, which was certainly a milestone. And I'm just so proud of our team, our doctors, and just grateful to our patients that we've been able to service so many of our patients and really be a brand in our prospective communities. And from that, we started seeing that there's much more that we can provide for our patients, for our communities, and building off what we've already built and building off of our mission and off of our culture, we have now moved into Dynamic Medical Centers so that we can start servicing more of our patients' needs. And what that is looking like is non-operative sports medicine, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and interventional pain medicine, in addition to our foot and ankle care that we do.
Amazing. Well, first of all, congratulations on meeting that 10-year milestone. That's a really big deal.
Thank you.
And congratulations on adding the additional services, hence the name change. So that's really exciting. That's a lot of changes and a lot to celebrate.
Absolutely. And my team, I'm finding my team gives me so much fuel, because seeing them be so excited about the change, it's like, we got to keep doing this. We got to keep really keeping the mission and the patient in mind always as we move through our days, our years, and that's really what's driving us.
Amazing. Amazing. So I want to learn more about you. Tell me a little bit about your background and how you got into this field.
Yeah, excellent. So I grew up in Florida. I did my undergrad and my master's at the University of Florida, and then I moved on to South Florida and I did my podiatry training. I knew I always wanted to be in some type of healthcare, perhaps some maybe medicine, and I was thinking of the different specialties, and I realized that podiatry allowed me to have the type of relationships that could be long-term, which some of that trauma-based or surgical, very heavily surgical-based specialty doesn't always warrant or allow for a very long-term relationship. In addition to, it gave a certain level of flexibility to, it wasn't super crazy after hours work. So it gave me the work-life balance that appealed to me. And so I then started my first position in Fredericksburg, actually, from Florida. I worked at a clinic there for about 5 years. And then I always say, this is the day I became unemployable. It was the day that I just didn't want to work for anybody else and really just went off on my own. And it's not that common as much these days where doctors go out and set up shop on their own. There's certain barriers to entry, I would say, to that. But I couldn't go any other way. It was already certain inside of me that I went all in on myself and started the practice up in Lorton, Virginia, and then moved down back to where I knew. It was so great coming back down to Fredericksburg, because so many of the patients that I had treated previously were right there ready to see us again. And even though I had some patients follow me in Lorton, it was still a bit of a distance. So it was really great to come back to Fredericksburg and see some of my old friends, my old patients that still see us today since I first started.
I love that you just said that you went all in on yourself. I think that's such a great message for everyone listening to go, bet on yourself, go in all in on
Mhm.
yourself. I love that.
Absolutely.
So what is something that maybe you hear often, some myths or misconceptions about the industry?
About the industry of
Either the
medicine.
industry or about your business in particular?
Misconceptions. Well, I think that's something that we have been really adamant. I certainly was adamant about it once we hung our shingle, was that I think in the healthcare space, people can often feel like they're just a number. And, I don't think any doctor or healthcare provider gets into the specialty saying, oh, my intention is for my patient to feel like they're just a number. Nobody would want that. But yet, as, corporations or companies get bigger, there's a lot of layers in between that patient care. And sometimes it can feel a little corporate for the patient experience, and it doesn't feel more personal. So when we started, I always had this vision that when people, and I would tell this to my team, I want that when people walk out of our office, they are like almost flabbergasted, like, what was that experience that I just had? Like, I want people to think that we've set the standard for their care system. And it's something I stand by today. And it's something that we like to believe we're delivering on. And we have some of the most beautiful reviews like every day coming in from our patients, that they feel like they're a part of the family. Our team knows their name when they come back. And that's really what I'm committed to. And I know it's hard for providers to keep delivering on that, especially when they've got like insurance challenges, all these things, but it's really a misconception that I and my team are dedicated to overcoming in the healthcare space.
I love that. I love that you mentioned that. It's so important to think about your patient experience. And it says a lot that you're able to continue doing that through 10 years and through growth and expansion. So, big kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
So let's switch gears a little bit. Can you describe a challenge or maybe a hardship that you've gone through, either personally or in business, that you can say now that you're on the other side of it, you're stronger or better for it?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, that's the deal with life, right? That's the assignment, is we're going to have some challenges. In fact, if I met a person who says they have no challenges, I almost would feel sorry for them, because that's where real character is built, at least what I have found. Um, it's like tinkering quickly, like, oh, how personal do I share? And yeah, I want to share personally because it's been such a defining time in my life that probably has lent itself to a great degree of who I am and what I represent in my life. And I would say, seeing my parents, both my mom and my dad, I'm an only child, but seeing my parents struggle emotionally, they struggled with addiction, and unfortunately, it's very sad to see someone you love go through that experience. In fact, due to their addiction, they passed earlier in life. And I remember when I was younger, many times, like, being angry and kind of cursing, my circumstance. Why do I have this? And maybe in some ways it sort of lent itself to me being like, I'm going to, be different, and I'm not going to be that. And there's a value in that. But then eventually that wears away in life. And realizing, like, one of the greatest things that I've revolutionized in my life from that experience is realizing that I had the perfect parents that I needed in order to become the woman that I'm proud to be, because I have compassion for my parents who struggled. And I know that they were fighters. And I know that, if it wasn't for my parents, like, I would not be here. Like, thank you, mom and dad. And it's also given me the ability to stand on their shoulders and be an example to them as well, even in their passing. And it's wild because I feel like I have a deeper relationship with my mom and my dad in my heart than I ever did when they were in the physical form. So I just have a lot of, like, if anything went any other way, like I may not be here. And I'm really proud to be where I am, and I'm proud to be where I'm going. And I think like witnessing that their struggle, it's made me really be intentional about how I move in my life, about how, like, what the mission is I carry in my life. So I have the deepest gratitude and empathy for these two individuals that were on a path.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that. I imagine there's a lot of people that maybe needed to hear that message because you have taken something really beautiful out of the situation.
Thank you.
I know that it is hard to share sometimes, so thank you for that.
Yeah, it's been such, it's hindsight is always 2020, of course. I probably didn't know this at 18 years old, certainly, but looking back and like, wow, like you think if any piece was any other different, it was any other way, like I may not be the person I am today. And, to be able to look in the mirror and say, like, I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of, like, I always wonder, like, how do you grade their quality of life? Like what makes one's life good or great? And I always think it's really about, like, for me, it always comes to the relationships that I have. That's how I measure success. And had I not had the certain life experiences, I wouldn't be, have built a relationship with myself and have built the beautiful relationships with my family and my friends, my peers, and my team. And subsequently, of course, our patients. So it just, I think that's one great measure to measure the richness of your life, is the quality of your relationships.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that you carry that through now to your team and your patients. So that's they're getting a wonderful part of you because of it.
Thank you.
So on a lighter note, when I know that you are very busy as president of the company, so when you're not busy in business, what are you doing for fun?
Gosh, I have such a fun life too. I do a myriad of things. Certainly, I love to travel, and I have a peer group that I travel with. Like, we were just skiing a few weeks ago. I go on a ski trip once a year with them. We do an adventure trip once a year, and we just decided we're going to Thailand. So travel is certainly, and seeing the world, experiencing other cultures is something important to me. But I don't travel every weekend. So what am I doing in my other free time? I would say spending quality time with my friends and my family is a priority for sure. I love to be in the outdoors. I love hiking. I love just being in nature anytime I can. I love, the mountains. Actually, I grew up in Florida, so I was always like a beach girl. And actually, I was born in New Jersey, but grew up in Florida, and we were at the Jersey Shore, so I was always by the water. And then moving up here almost 16 years ago, I'm like, there's not like the most direct access to water, and it's just different. Everything, like in Florida, everything's so flat, and here it's like you've got some altered terrain, and there's some really great hikes around town, and the mountains aren't far away. So I've really had a new love for that as well. So yeah, there's lots of variety in my life, thankfully.
I love that. Yeah, I always say this is such a wonderful place to live because we do have access to the beaches, but then we've got the mountains, and then we've got the culture of DC, and the city of Fredericksburg is such a little hallmark town. We just kind of have the best of everything here.
Yeah, Fredericksburg has great personality. I'm always like feel warmed when I just really get to experience the salt of the earth people in Fredericksburg. It's like no other, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I love it. So, what is something that you wish the listeners knew about dynamic medical centers?
Well, I think that if you come to see us, you will instantly know who we are and what we represent. I would say, we read our mission and our vision and our values every single morning of our morning huddle. Every team member, all the team gets together and we read that every morning because that is our North Star every single day. Being in our mission statement, one of the lines is exceeding expectations when patients choose us to be a part of their healthcare team. And that's always the North Star of delivering at the next levels to our patients. So I want people to know that we are committed to that mission every day, every patient interaction. And my hope is that the patient has that experience when they come into our practice. So I think that's what I want them to know, that it is our mission, it is our commitment to deliver on exceeding your expectations when you choose us. So that's the message I would want people to know.
Amazing. What great leadership to have your huddle and be reminded every single day of why you're there. And that's just everything that you do, goes back to those statements. And so I love that you do that. That's really cool.
Yeah. And one other thing we add in is that every morning we say a patient from the day before that we delivered extra on our mission to. So it's always, It's in our mindset all the time. How can we deliver?
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's
I
fun.
love that. So if the listeners want to connect with you or learn more about Dynamic Medical Centers, how can they find you?
They can certainly they can go to the best thing would probably go to our website, dynamicmedcenters.com or dynamicfac.com. We're in a bit of a transition as we're going through. This is a really exciting time in our practice as we're opening up for new specialties. So dynamicfac.com or dynamicmedcenters.com.
Amazing. Dr. VonDerLinden, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today and sharing Dynamic Medical Centers with us.
Dory, the pleasure's been mine. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Fredericksburg Neighbors Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to fxbgneighborspodcast.com.